Pirates wrapped up their 8-game road trip with a 4-4 record after splitting another 4-game series. This time it was with the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is episode number 25 of the Queen's Connection, a production of Patton Sports Crave. I am your host, Andrew Patton, joined by the co-host, Corne Hogeveen. Corne, 4-4 on the road. You know what's the old saying? You play above 500 at home and 500 on the road. That's a winning formula. Well, the Mets played 500 on the road.
Yeah, although we have a losing record at home, so that doesn't necessarily make the case right. But
Well, it's a work in
uh,
progress, right?
yeah, definitely. If you have said to me before this series against the Pirates started that we split the series, I would take it. So we had some tough pitchers we faced in Skeens, and Mitch Keller yesterday was tremendous. So winning the other two, I think you definitely take that. So I'm not necessarily um, that mad about winning the series in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you also talk about this great pitching that the Mets face in Pittsburgh. The same argument could be made when they were our nation's capital just a week ago against the Washington Nationals. Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin threw a good game. So the Mets have had a good stretch of opposing pitchers they've had to face so far. They're just a game
Yes.
under 500 at the moment. They're still in the thick of the wild card race, so you can't be too upset with how things have transpired the past week or so.
No, definitely not. Two teams, the Nationals are a team that's on the rise. I think the Pirates are obviously a team on the rise too. So not that bad. Obviously, you want to win the series, but on the other hand, you could easily go out with losing the series against the Pirates, which I think we often do when we face the Pirates, that we leave PNC Park, even when the Pirates were bad. So, yeah, not that bad.
No, not at all. Especially with the way the series started Friday night. We'll just jump into that right away. It was not a great opening to this weekend wraparound 4-game series with the Pittsburgh Pirates. A 14-2 loss after the Mets jumped out to a 2-0 lead against Paul Skeens, All-Star Paul Skeens, we should mention. I'm sure we'll be talking All-Stars later in this episode. Uh, but just a tough game all around for the Mets. They got out to that 2-0 lead, feeling pretty good, but then things kind of started to go south. Not a great outing for Luis Severino. He did give you 6 innings. He gave you the length that we've been talking about, but just the, the 9 hits, 7 runs, 2 walks, 3 home runs. The home runs stand out very much so in this outing. And then Jake Diekman came in, didn't record an out when the Mets needed him to, uh, get some outs there. And Ty Aycock had to come out of the bullpen, take one on the chin, get sent to AAA afterwards. And um, it's not a very good day overall for Mets pitchers, um, particularly the starter in Luis Severino.
Yeah, Severino was just an odd outing. We mentioned on the chat that he threw a lot of fastballs, and he did that again in this outing. And I think he was a little bit too late with adjusting, with throwing a little bit more of the sweepers. I think he did throw some sweepers, but it was already after the third home run. So he was very fastball heavy, which didn't work. So I was a little bit surprised that he didn't adjust earlier in the outing, especially him being a veteran. Um, Not noticing that, or he did notice it, but didn't have a feel for his sweeper. I don't know what necessarily was the reason. I can look inside Severino's mind, but watching it was odd that he adjusted to way too late.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to his last outing with the Houston Astros, where he was very reliant on the four seam and the sinker. And no, in that outing too, obviously there were some soft hits from the Astros, but the Astros did barrel up some balls in that game too. And um, I think maybe the sweeper changeup usage in this one was higher than that Astro one, but like you said, I think it was a little too late. And when you're throwing all those sinkers and four seamers, it's easy for the hitters to kind of be sitting on that, and I think that might have contributed to kind of the onslaught there for the Pittsburgh Pirates in this game. And then we wanted to make the point too. We made on the chat. Obviously, Diekman came in, uh, got banged around a bit, um, and the struggles just continue for Jake Diekman. But obviously, that's disappointing. But really, the main culprit in all this was Severino. So just obviously we don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but you have to kind of be can't just say, well, Jake Diekman sucked again, whatever, which was true, but Luis Severino was a little bit of the ringleader in this one today, in that outing, which is unfortunate because he's been the Mets' best pitcher, basically all year. And honestly, with this outing, maybe it cost him an All-Star spot. Who knows? But uh, just a disappointing outing there for Luis Severino. A positive in this game, though, was a home run from Jeff McNeil off Paul Skeens. I think he said, I did not have that on my bingo card in this outing. So that was good to see from Jeff McNeil. But no, I do want to give some flowers to Paul Skeens because that was, I mean, while it was maybe fun for Mets fans overall, watching that guy pitch was pretty impressive. And even though he's just made 10 starts in his major league career, you can see why he's heading to Arlington for the All-Star game next week.
Yeah, 100%. Fun to have such a homegrown talent, lucky as well, as you don't often have that kind of talent be in your first round. So it's amazing that they have that arm, and a little bit jealous that they have that arm.
You could say the same thing with Jared Jones, Mitch Keller. Obviously the Pirates not at the best or at the top of the baseball mountain the past couple of years, but you can in just in this game alone, you saw uh, what they could be like in just a few short years, in that National League Central and the National League overall when things are clicking with Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, Jared Jones. That's a force to be reckoned with here in the National League. So, I have to give the Pittsburgh Pirates credit for that game. I mean, not really a whole lot to talk about more on the Mets side of things. So I say let's just jump over to Saturday afternoon. This is one where I think you're going to kind of handle the majority of the analysis or so in this one, as wasn't able to watch as much as I wanted to, but it was the start for David Peterson, coming off a good one against the Washington Nationals, and the Mets won this game by a final of 5-2 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. They were able to get some runs off Billy Falter early, who only pitched 2 innings left. Next day was placed on the IL. Former Met Dennis Santana came in and did a nice job for the Pirates. And then a former Met farmhand came in for the Pittsburgh Pirates in Ryder Ryan. Maybe it's a name that's familiar to some if you're true to the orange and blue like we are. But the Mets did get some runs off him as well. Uh, Peterson, not a long outing, just 4 1/3. But Jose Butto came in, ate some innings. Reed Garrett had a scoreless inning with some controversy involved. I'm sure you'll talk about that a little bit. Dednell Nunez, scoreless eighth. Edwin Diaz, in his return from his suspension, picks up the save. So just a good overall pitching day for the Mets. Nimmo with 3 hits, Torrens with 3 hits and 3 RBIs. So just a good day overall for the Mets. Um, what did you take away from this game on Saturday? What stood out to you the most?
A little bit of luck, especially. I think that's the thing I remember the most with that Reed Garrett outing. Reed Garrett definitely deserved to allow some runs there. I think he got 2 strikes that were clear balls. It was it wasn't like, um, we will obviously talk about it later, but that Eric Orze ball strike, it was borderline close. You could see that the umpire um, called it a ball. Although it was a strike, he called it a ball. You could see that. But Reed Garrett had two calls, which pitches were way below the zone, and um, if those pitches were called balls as they clearly should have, he would have walked in a run and still have the bases loaded there. Um, so that was a huge call for the Mets, and also early on another thing that stood out was the Luis Torrens base clearing double after the Mets loaded the bases against Falter and I think a bit of Dennis Santana. I think he came in with a 2-0 count or something like that after the injury with 2-1 and no outs. Dennis Santana struck out too. And then Luis Torrens came through with a huge 2-out 3-1 double. If Luis Torrens would have been out at that point, the Mets would have squandered two bases loaded, less than 2 outs early on. And as we both know, when that's happening, it it takes a lot different mindset going further into the game. So that was a huge hit with kind of being under the radar maybe, but I think that was the biggest play of the game. And I think Peterson could have gone a little bit deeper into this game. I think he pitched pretty well. His changeup is a revelation this year, which is great because I don't think he necessarily has that great slider this year, not like he did in his great year 2 years ago. So if he's able to get that slider back and improve his changeup, I think he's going to be even better. So I have high hopes for David Peterson. So um, also great play by Lindor, by the way, in that again inning with Reed Garrett. Um, Reed Garrett was extremely lucky there. That's that's probably the main wow I had in that game.
David Peterson, 87 pitches in this outing, 61 strikes. So a nice little ratio there. Um, like we mentioned, Edwin Diaz, first game back from the suspension, picks up the save, gets a strikeout. Uh, anything look different compared to the last time we saw Edwin Diaz? Anything stand out to you about that, or pretty much same old with Edwin Diaz?
Oh, he wasn't suspended or he wasn't ejected. That's probably the best. No, I didn't saw anything different. I thought he looked really good. And Nunez as well, by the way. We see in the last couple of games that's the formula right now. Edwin Diaz in the ninth, Daniel Nunez in the eighth, and I love that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Daniel Nunez has made quite an impression since his recall from AAA Syracuse, and even when he got sent down back in April, his first down, you saw the stuff and the potential he has, and he's certainly earned that quote unquote setup role for Edwin Diaz. So the Mets take game two of this 4 game series by a final of 5-2 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. We'll move to Sunday for an exciting 3-2 win for the New York Mets. This was a game that saw Sean Manaea go against Luis Ortiz, and good starts from both sides. They both went 6 scoreless. Obviously, we'll focus more on the Sean Manaea here, who just allowed 2 hits, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts from Sean Manaea. The Mets struck first in this game. It took till the 8th inning on a 2-strike, 2-out, uh, or excuse me, that's not the right one. There it is. Brandon Nimmo with 2 outs, though, driving in Francisco Lindor to give the Mets a 1-0 lead. We'll talk about Nimmo in a second here. The Pirates uh, would get some base runners against Denel Nunez in the 8th inning there. Obviously, Nunez on back-to-back days was not as sharp as he was his first day, a couple base hits. Um, Edwin Diaz came on in the 8th to try to get things clean things up. Unfortunately, the Pirates would score 2 to take a 2-1 lead. So we go to the ninth against Aroldis Chapman, and I have to give you credit because you said in our last episode when we were looking ahead to the Pittsburgh Pirates, it seems like the New York Mets always get Aroldis Chapman, and they did yet again. A great at bat from Francisco Alvarez draws a walk. Harrison Bader singles. A great at bat from Jose Iglesias after Chapman came back to strike out the next two batters. And then Francisco Lindor does Francisco Lindor things. He lines a base hit, drives in two, and the Mets are in business. They are up 3-2. That was all they would get in that ninth inning. But Edwin Diaz came on, and 1-2-3 down went the Pirates. A big 3-2 win for the New York Mets. Um, Before we get to Nimmo and Lindor, let's talk about Sean Manaea because Manaea had that great outing against the Washington Nationals his previous time out. Maybe took a little bit to get settled in this outing. Some walks early, but overall, Sean Manaea, another great outing. One that the Mets are looking to get from him more often than not, getting at least 6 innings out of him. So Shamanaya looks like he's in the groove right now.
He sure is. Early on, like you mentioned, his control was a little bit off. Lots of three ball counts. I think in the first two innings, that was mostly the case. But after that, he got some quick outs, threw more strikes, and now you can see that hitters are. Um, Although if you look at the radar gun with Sean Manaea, you see 94, but you see that hitters are late on that fastball and under the fastball a lot. And that's because he's just such a tall guy who gets great extension in his motion. And yeah, great to see that he had earlier on in the year he had some outings where he kept the opposition scoreless, but was for 4 innings or 5 innings or whatever. And now he went sixth, um, which is obviously huge. The Mets played some good defense behind him. Jeff McNeil with a nice throw to get a runner at second base. So it helps if you throw strikes. And I think Shalmanaya showed after the first two innings, getting some quick outs, that you can get deeper in the game. The defense behind you plays better, and he as well. So I think multiple times in this podcast episodes I have said if Shalmanaya is able to throw strikes, he's pretty nasty. So yeah, it's not as easy as it sounds. I understand that, but but he shows when he's able to throw. I think that's the main issue with Shalmanaya, that at times he loses his control or gets behind too often. But if he's ahead, and that's the case for most pitchers, I understand that. But he's pretty nasty.
He's got that what do they call it? Sweeper curve combo that he hasn't quite figured the name out for yet. So that was working for him in this outing as well, and it was obviously huge because it took a little bit for the Mets offense to get going against the Pirates pitching. So to keep the Pirates down there with 0 runs as well was huge. And like I mentioned in the little game recap there, some big clutch hits in this game uh, for Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor. I have to give Lindor credit too for drawing that walk in the eighth inning before Brandon Nimmo drove him in. So these two guys, we know statistically they did not have a great April, but I've really picked it up since then, and um, perhaps we're worthy of some selections to the All-Star game uh, in Arlington, Texas. That did not happen. That's something maybe we could get into. But let's just focus on this game. These two guys really, I would say, are the most clutch guys in the lineup. It just seems like, especially lately too, with Brandon Nimmo. Just think about all the big 2-out hits he's had just in the last like week and a half. Obviously, the home run, one career number 100 against the Astros, that was with 2 outs. When he came in against the Nationals, had that big 2-out hit in the 10th inning. Um, so just Brandon Nimmo's just been super clutch lately. He feels like he has been for the majority of his career. Um, and for a lineup that, you know, uh, really in the past, maybe hasn't had that big, guy to come through in those big moments. It's good to see, especially from two of your better players.
100%. They are probably, if you look at the clutch numbers, probably you have some high leverage numbers on Baseball Reference, and and I think we probably see Lindor and Nimmo at the top of those lists for the Mets at least. So yeah, they are a clutch. They have that clutch gene. Maybe JD Martinez is around there too. He also and Vientos, by the way, also been pretty clutch. I saw a I think I saw a tweet somewhere with uh, wins probability added. It's a stat. I have heard of it, and I think Brandon Nimmo leaves the Mets. I saw if you are gonna hinge to the All Star talk, I saw Pete Alonso was 8 on the Mets. So to me, it's clear uh, who should be the Mets All Star. And although I like the polar bear, uh, I don't think he was the one for the Mets um, to represent us in this All Star in this coming All Star game.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff you sent me from the Twitterverse and whatnot about Lindor and Alonso or Lindor and Nimmo, excuse me, about where they rank in a lot of these things. Um, and the one that stuck out to me was the Fangraphs War, F War. Uh, Nimmo is second in the National League, the whole National League in F War, only behind Jerks and Profar. And
The
Alonso,
outfielder,
if for outfielders,
outfielder.
for outfielders,
Yeah,
yes, we should put that clarification in there for outfielders. Um,
exactly.
and they said on the broadcast for Lindor on Monday that uh, everyone in the top 24 in WAR is an all star except for Francisco Lindor. And I don't know if you
It's like
want,
every year. I'm
yeah,
sorry, but it's like every single year. Also saw a tweet that the highest wins above replacement players who weren't all stars. It's Lindor. 3 of the last 4 years is in the top 6 or something like that. And
yeah,
it's every single year. It's Francisco Lindor since he's becoming a Met.
yeah, uh,
Can be it can be any how you say
clear.
it's not no it's since he becoming a Met he's getting snubbed. So
There,
there's a word for it. What I want, but what I'm searching in my head,
he's
I'm
getting
not
screwed
going.
basically.
Yes, but since becoming a Met, which is a little bit odd. Well, it's odd to say the least.
Yeah,
Yes, the guy is always has a bad April. We know that, but after April, he's been one of the best players in the game, not just shortstop in the game. And even with a bad April, he is like fifth or sixth in F1 or something like that. I mean, come on, what does the guy has to do? He can have one bad month in in a full season. It's mostly in a full season. So I feel bad for Lindor. I feel bad for Nimmo, who's never been an All Star, which is crazy. And yeah, then you have a guy with all due respect again to Peter Alonso, who is just there are clearly two a lot better players this year. Not just slightly better. Then you can make the case, but Nimmo and Lindor are both playing a lot better than Pete Alonso.
I agree 100%. And I'm actually a little bit surprised at um, some of the outcry from the fans because we know the fans love Pete Alonso. But even they're like, look at these guys in Lindor and Nimmo who have been more productive, even despite those poor starts to the season. And where they're at right now. I mean, just looking at OPS. Brandon Nimmo has an 823 OPS. Alonso's at 7.8, and 7.8 is not bad. That's good. Um, like Alonso's had a fine season, but there are just guys on this team that were more deserving to go to the All Star game. And not that I really care about the All Star game much anymore. Just everything with the All Star game's just gone like downhill for me, really. I mean, I probably won't even watch to be honest with you next Tuesday. Um, but uh, if Brandon Nimmo was there, maybe I'd be more apt to watch. I mean, we've seen Alonso in these settings before. I'll still watch the home run derby. Alonso's partaking in that. Um, But it's just disappointing because there were some guys that deserved it, and we don't think they no we think they just picked the more popular guy rather than who deserves it. And I guess that's what All Star games are, though. Overall,
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. It should be the best players out there. And yeah, I'm probably not gonna watch the All Star game too. However, I think for the players, it is a recognition. So I feel bad for Francisco Lindor. Have to answer questions to the media. How do you feel about missing the All Star game? Well, I think Francisco Lindor feels a lot different than he said probably in his interview. I I should have had a better. Lindor always takes it by himself. Should have had a better April. Well, you've been tremendous since nothing else Francisco Lindor could have done. He's playing tremendous defense, out of this world defense. I think probably his best defensive year so far as a Met. I don't know the numbers, but that's what I think. And so yeah, his OPS maybe isn't um, at that point with Alonso and Nimmo yet, but the defense is just so good what he's playing right now. The guy has been great, and the guy since he signed with the Mets hasn't been has get some some bad reps, some bad reps by some fans. That's to me is always crazy, but now also he gets some bad reps by MLB itself. We saw it with the Gold Glove. Maybe he shouldn't have won a Gold Glove, but last year wasn't in the top three. I mean, what the hell? It's not like it's the first time that that guy gets snubbed for anything by MLB right now, and that's to me it's just crazy. And I think it's definitely part that he's a Met right now. It just can't seem to. If he was still with the Cleveland Indians, he probably would have a couple of those out there, in my opinion.
well, do we want to share our conspiracy theories, put our tinfoil caps
No,
on? You don't want to go
I'm
that
not
far.
going to. I'm not going to put my tin hat caps on. That's just for you and me.
That
And funny thing that we did have kind of like the same view on it, although I had a little different. Maybe people are now very curious, all the five listeners. Well, tweet us, DM us. You can, especially DM Andrew. He loves that, and we can explain.
well, basically, we took two different routes, but we ended at the same location. That's basically what
Yeah,
our you know
exactly what it is.
our
Yes.
conspiracy theories. But um, so that was disappointing news to receive on Sunday after a great game by the New York Mets. Uh, and it was just kind of put a little, I don't want to say put a damper on the day because obviously the game is more important than All Star selections and whatnot. But if a guy like Nimmo or Lindor had gone to the All Star game, it would have been more exciting, to say the least.
For me, at least, it would be yes.
Yeah. Well, the Mets were looking to take 3 of 4 from the Pittsburgh Pirates going into a wraparound Monday afternoon game. And this featured Christian Scott against Mitch Keller, another good pitching matchup, and it lived up to the hype. Christian Scott was very good in this outing. Only one mistake, and naturally, it was a home run. That put the
Yeah.
Pirates up 2-0. But the Mets did respond by another Brandon
Well,
Nimmo big hit to tie the game, a 2-run homer. And then things kind of went awry a little bit for the Mets in that bottom half of the sixth. Eric Orze came on to make his major league debut. Should have been out of that inning after facing Brian Reynolds, but got squeezed a little bit. O'Neill Cruz then got on base. Rowdy Tellez beat out a little nubber, and things just kind of went downhill after that. Adrian Hauser was the fireman that came in, but was not putting water on the fire. He was pouring gasoline on the fire. So Hauser finished up this game, pitching 2 1/3, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 strikeouts, and a home run. The Mets did not really do much after that. They lose to the Pirates 8-2. So, like we said, a split of this 4-game series. Um, let's start with Christian Scott first, and then we'll get to Eric Orze because I want to make some points about Eric. There were some things said about Eric Orze on the broadcast that I think people need to focus more on than what they saw on the what they perceived Eric Orze's outing to be.
yeah, yeah. Um, All right, I'm curious about that. Christian Scott, um, it's been it's such a weird thing with Christian Scott is the home run ball, and I can't necessarily put my finger on it. So it's uh, it's weird. Although obviously he still pitched really well. I didn't necessarily watch the game as closely as I used to, so I'm going to not get that much into it this time. So I'm going to leave that at you. And I had some notes about Eric Orze, but I don't think they're as good as your notes. So this time you can go and say whatever you want about this game.
Well, obviously Christian Scott was a great outing from him. Obviously, wasn't able to go as far, figuring that they pushed him to almost 100 pitches his last outing, and they said this is the first time that he was pitching on just the regular rest, the 4 days rest and whatnot, which I thought was a little surprising. I thought during his first call up that he would have gone on 4 days rest before, but apparently not. Still just looked really, really good. Obviously, the one mistake to O'Neill Cruz, and like you said, not sure what it is with him and the home run ball, but that just seems to be the case with him. And then Eric Orze came in, and um, like I said, I think he got squeezed on that 3-2 changeup to Brian Reynolds. Um, the O'Neill Cruz at bat, no, gotta give O'Neill Cruz credit. That was a well struck ball. They get 2 strikes on O'Neill Cruz. Um, and then the Rowdy Tellez thing, that's just a fluky base. What Rowdy Tellez is probably never going to get an infield single again. It was just, the way the defense was positioned, he just hit it far away enough from Vientos where he had to leave his feet, get up and throw. Um, and something that really bothered me on the broadcast about this, Jerry Blevins was in the broadcast booth, and this is not on Jerry, this is on Gary Cohen. I think a Gary from Jamaica showed up rather than Gary from SNY. Jerry Blevins was talking about, hey, maybe not the best value for Eric Orze, major league debut, whatever, but the stuff will play at the major league level. He was giving him flowers about that split changeup that he throws, and obviously maybe there's a little extra velo on the fastball, obviously because it's your first big league outing, and I have a little adrenaline there. And then every time Jerry was trying to, say, hey, you know what? Just focus more on what you saw with the stuff, not rather the results, the stuff. And the stuff definitely plays. We could see that split change and whatnot. And Gary Cohen just kept dumping cold water on it. And I thought that just really bugged me for a lot of reasons. I know the game did not go the way that just kind of fell apart there in that 6th inning. I get it. Um, but I don't know. That just really bugged me about the broadcast yesterday because Jerry was trying to find the positive in it. Like, maybe this Eric Orze kid is going to be the next Drew Smith or something. Who knows? Just a homegrown guy that is maybe still working on through some things. Uh, but you can see the stuff is there, and Gary Cohen just kept dumping cold water on it. And I like Gary Cohen and the SNY broadcast and whatnot, but that just really bugged me yesterday, and I think that just eggs on the fans even more to be like, well, this Eric Orze kid sucks and whatnot, and I don't know, that just really bugged me yesterday. I think you got to focus more on what Jerry Blevins said because Jerry played the game. He knows stuff like this. So focus more on what Jerry said rather than Gary.
I haven't listened that closely to it, but listening to what you said, 100%. Jerry Blevins, major league player, and can we stop with making a guy suck or anything with 3 hitters, especially if you look how. I mean, it's his major league debut. Uh, the guy showed. It's not like this was a guy who's been a veteran, who's been there a long time, like maybe a Matt Festa, that type of guy who's been up and down, uh, never really was able to stick anywhere. Eric Orsi is a homegrown player getting his first shot, um, and actually looked well. You see the potential Eric Orze. I wasn't necessarily listening a lot, but that was the inning I was most focused because I wanted to see Eric Orze. And that pitch, that changeup was so nasty. Should have been called a strike. And then you were out of the inning. Then Rowdy Tellez was completely full on a pitch, hit it at the very end of the bat. And unfortunately, it was a base hit. So two of the three hits he allowed, or base runners he allowed, could have been outs. And it's not Eric Orsi's fault that Adrian Hauser had his worst outing as a reliever as Met after it. It's just how it goes sometimes. And I missed it. I wished I had heard it because I would have a big opinion about it too. And kudos to Jerry Blevins for um, saying that on the air. And yeah, I actually don't want to get haters on this podcast, so I'm going to leave some of my opinion about her for myself.
Well, I just felt like I had to get that off my chest and defend Eric
No,
Orze a
you're
little bit.
totally right. You're totally right.
Yeah.
But I'm just for our sake, as this podcast, we're talking about a very likable guy for a lot of fans, um, and he has been not great over the last couple of years, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
then you probably know who I'm talking about. And I think it's fair that the Mets are keeping are keeping him as our main voice, and I think he deserves that. But it's not going tremendously over the last 2 years, and there are a lot of more examples we could take we could say, but we are not going to get into that.
No, I just wanted to defend Eric Orze a little bit and from any potential backlash he might get, and just tell people to listen to what Jerry Blevins said. Listen to what the Major League Baseball player had to say, his assessment of the outing, rather than um, Mark from Brooklyn Heights or whatever. Let's let the expert really kind of make the assessment and put trust
Why?
into his words.
Yes. Why are you having an expert, a guy who's been there on your broadcast team if you're not letting him speak,
Yeah, yeah. So
right?
right,
Then you don't need Jerry Blevins. Then you can put well, me in there and
Chris,
still
Chris,
be the same.
yeah, Chris from Manhattan or whatever can do it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Then,
Yeah,
then we then we don't need Jerry Blevins
right.
if you're not gonna let him talk about how it is as a major league pitcher, especially pitchers. That's what that guy knows.
Yeah, yeah. So
So Eric, see, wasn't as bad as we all think. That's probably the main
that's the main
part. As
point. Don't look at the box score.
look at the box score, he was a lot better. Stuff is for real. Obviously, it's gonna be with ups and downs, which is logical. But give the guy a chance. And I believed after watching him last year, and I've seen Eric Orze pitch at times. I was a I was in favor to bring him up earlier, so I'm happy that he's here. I hope he stays. I hope he's not getting demoted after or optioned after these three batters because I think there's definitely is something with Eric Orsi. And also, I think this spot when we came in, obviously in another situation, he would have had maybe a little bit easier major league debut than the spot he was put in right now.
Yep, I agree 100%. So overall message: look past the box score, and see what did your eyes tell you, rather than what does the box score tell you. Uh, so just remember that about Eric Orze. So overall, let's take a look at the National League wildcard standings at the moment. Here on the morning of July 9th, the Mets 2.5 back of the San Diego Padres for the last wildcard spot. So are the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are percentage points just ahead of the Mets by 1 percentage point. The Diamondbacks are at 495. The New York Mets are at 494. The Giants are only a game behind the Mets. They're 3.5 back of the Padres. The Pirates are 4. Reds 4.5. So it's a tight race still. No one's quite gotten that separation there, but um, there's still some baseball to be played before the trade deadline. So we shall see what happens over the next couple of weeks. And so I think this is a good segue into a weekend full of minor league action. So we'll hand this over to Corne, and he'll keep us up to date on what's been happening in the Mets minor league system.
Will do. The Dominican Summer League match, Fredion Figueroa, 18-year-old from Venezuela, was solid in relief, going 3 1/3 scoreless. He allowed just one hitter, struck out one, 1.38 ERA over 30 innings with a 1.08 whip. However, he has just 8 strikeouts in those 13 innings. A tough loss for Johan Moreno, 19-year-old from Venezuela, through 5 innings, allowing just one unearned run on 1 hit and a walk, striking out 5. Moreno is 0-3 with a 3.00 ERA and a 0.89 whip with 22 strikeouts over 18 innings. So he's been unlucky in the Dominican Summer League, I would say. The Dominican Summer League Mets Blue allowed just 1 hit versus the Dominican Summer League Orange team. Panama native Anthony Crespo went 4 2/3 scoreless innings, allowing the lone hit to Boan Adderley. Crespo walked 2 and struck out 6. Crespo was followed by lefty Misael Lopez. The lefty had struggled mightily in his minor league career, but struck out all batters he faced in 1 1/3 innings on Saturday. Yancy Rivas, a 70-year-old switch hitter, had his first career 3-hit day, going 3 for 4 with 5 runs batted in. He doubled twice and hit a triple. And Roy Baird Herrera is red hot. He went 4 for 4 his second straight 4-hit day, scored 4 runs and drove in 1. An 842 OPS for the 70-year-old second baseman, and that was before yesterday, I should say. I forgot to add the games from the Dominican Summer League yesterday, so I'm sorry about that. Disclaimer. Florida Complex League, Jake Citella drove in 5 on Saturday, hitting his second home run of the season. Branny De Oleo drove in 3 on Saturday, going 2 for 4 with a triple. Davison Gutierrez, Jeremy Rodriguez, and Jonathan Enriquez had a 2-hit game on Saturday. Omar Victorino struck out 7 over 3 innings, allowing a run. The 19-year-old has 35 strikeouts in 24 2/3 innings, but also a 6.20 ERA and a 1.91 whip. Jeremy Rodriguez had a terrible June where he slashed 181, 234, 222. But he has been better in the early going in July. On Monday, he's hit his 3rd home run and walked twice and stealing 2 bases. He's hitting 389, 522, 556 in 5 July games. So I think Jeremy Rodriguez had the normal match June swoon, as we have talked about earlier, because he was awful there, and all the other months were pretty good. Simon Juan went 2 for 5 with a double and 2 runs batted in on Monday. And Christian Rodriguez was tremendous in relief with 4 scoreless innings yesterday, striking out 4. St. Lucie, Lionel Ovales is back with St. Lucie after a scoreless stint in the Florida Complex League. After the demotion, he showed some improvement since his return. Ovales went 3 scoreless innings, allowed just 1 hit, striking out 5. He now has 5 2/3 scoreless innings since his return to St. Lucie. So good to see that the demotion and a quick re-promotion, I should say, helped him get back on track in St. Lucie. Brooklyn, Nick Morabito hit his first triple in Brooklyn, going 2 for 4 with an RBI and 3 runs scored on Friday. Wilfredo Lora kept his good stretch going with a 2 for 4, 2 RBI day Friday, same as Karel passed on that day. Lefty Ryan Emmons, last year 10th round pick from the Red Sox, the Mets got in trading Justin Sladen. Obviously, a move that we might now want to reverse, but hey, we still have lefty Ryan Emmons. He made his Brooklyn debut after a good showing in St. Lucie, allowed 1 run in 2 innings, striking out 4. And Mateo Gil went 2 for 4 on Friday with his 4th home run. Binghamton, Stanley Consuegra, Wyatt Young, and JT Schwartz drove in 2 in a Binghamton win on Friday. Wyatt Young did the same on Saturday, driving in 2, as did Matt Ruddick. Clifford went 2 for 3 in a Saturday shutout win. Nolan McLean had a so-so 5 innings of 2-1 ball on Friday. Just one was earned, but he did allow 8 hits and 2 walks, so lots of base runners against him in 5 innings. He was helped by Shintaro Fujinami, who came in with the bases loaded, no out, and struck out 3. And best start of the year for Luis Moreno, who went 6 shutout innings, striking out 6. He lowered his ERA to 4.09. And Syracuse, Hayden Senger had a big go-ahead 3-1 double in the 6th on Friday to help Syracuse to a victory. Tyler McGill had his return to AAA, striking out 7 but walking 5. He allowed 2 runs over 3 and a third innings. Syracuse got scoreless innings out of Tyler J, Danny Young, Eric Orze, Wilcom Ramos, and Josh Walker to secure that Friday win. And Mike Vassell had yet another Mike Vassell outing, 6 innings, 3 runs allowed. He did struck out 8 this time, which was good. It's his 3rd straight outing that Mike Vassell went 6 innings, allowing 3 runs. So we're going to call that the Mike Vassell special from now on. Not a quality start, it's a Mike Vassell special.
3 runs and 6 innings of work.
Yes,
it's the Vassell.
Yes. So for everyone listening, for all those 10 people who are listening, tweet it out. If a Mets pitcher has 6 innings, 3 runs, call it the Mike Vassell special.
I'll have to start remembering to do that. Call it the Vassell.
Yeah, you should.
Well, before we get into this National Series, one note to pass along. The Mets did acquire a lefty reliever from the Los Angeles Dodgers, Matt Gage, and then they put Drew Smith on the 60-day IL. So Drew Smith's season is now officially probably over. Going to have that elbow surgery, it sounds like. So very unfortunate for Drew Smith. But the Mets pick up an additional depth left-hander he was optioned to AAA Syracuse when the Mets picked him up. So some more lefty depth there in the bullpen for the Mets because we know with the way Diekman's been going, you need some lefty depth in the pipeline. So now they got Danny Young, Josh Walker, Matt Gage. So they got some internal options who maybe we'll see before the trade deadline. Who knows? But it's something to just take note of with the way the left-handers have been pitching out of the Mets bullpen so far. Of late, I should say.
I think the odds are high that Matt Gage is a Met before the trade deadline.
We shall see about that. You look at his just 16 career outings, I believe, in the major leagues, but the numbers are, the baseline numbers are pretty impressive. So see if there's something there for the New York Mets. Hopefully there's some wins in the Mets' future against the Washington Nationals as they begin a 3-game series back in New York at Citi Field. It starts off tonight, 7:10. It's a pitching matchup we saw last week of Jake Irvin against Jose Quintana. They go to battle tonight. Tomorrow, Wednesday, some veterans take the mound with Patrick Corbin for the Washington Nationals going up against Luis Severino. And then on Thursday, a 1:10 game. So a getaway day for the Nationals. Some lefties will do battle as well. Mackenzie Gore against David Peterson. So those are your pitching matchups in a big 3-game series with the Washington Nationals. So who is going to stand out in these next 3 games? That is, we're going to put a name to the claim. Who is going to have a great series against the Washington Nationals? You get the batter, I get the pitcher, and since we are a pitching podcast for the most part, that means I get to go first, and I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here for me. I think David Peterson is going to...
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, shockingly.
Shockingly.
I think it's been David Peterson for maybe 4 of the last 5 times that you have to pick.
I don't think that's 100% accurate, But I think the way he's throwing the ball is, I think he's been pitching well. Obviously, he had that great start against the Nationals. Can we expect the same thing from him? I don't know. But I think David Peterson is starting to establish himself as an arm in the rotation. There's been those questions of maybe should they move Peterson to the bullpen or whatnot. I don't think so. I think Peterson has done enough to stay in the rotation. And I think Thursday, is going to be another check mark for David Peterson as to why he should stay in the rotation and not be a potential bullpen arm.
All right. I'm going with our favorite All-Star selection ever, Pete Alonso. Yeah, Pete Alonso, couple of lefties. He had some good at bats against Paul Skeens. I know that's already 3 games ago, but I did see Pete Alonso having some good at bats in that game. We forgot to mention that. So, and I think it's time for him to maybe have like a Pete Alonso power series, uh, hitting some home runs, hitting some doubles. Uh, Patrick Corbin, he probably has good numbers against Patrick Corbin, like most. So I wouldn't be shocked he has good numbers there. So that also helps that to have him in between. So I'm going Pete Alonso.
Well, that would be huge for the Mets if Alonso could get some put some out into Flushing Bay. Unfortunately, JD's been struggling of late, so um, the Mets could use a good series from Pete Alonso to maybe have the pitcher be more apt to pitch to JD Martinez or something. Maybe and have to get JD Martinez going. Who knows? Um, but yeah, I guess maybe a little bit of a he's going to take this next week's worth of games to get ready for the home run derby. Maybe who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Hope so.
'Cause
If he doesn't stop hitting home runs after, which is a crazy take by the way, but we have heard those flying around at some point. So yeah, it's time to get a real power. It's not like Pete Alonso hasn't hit home runs this year, but we didn't see that vintage, you know, red hot Pete Alonso yet. Probably it's at least not in my memory this year.
make the All Star selection worth it.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully Pete Alonso can do that. Hopefully the Mets can get some wins here against the Washington Nationals, and who knows, maybe start to creep their way back up, chip a half a game, a full game off that deficit between them and the San Diego Padres or whoever will be occupying the third wild card spot. So got some fun baseball games lined up. We thank Mr. Corne Hogeveen for joining us. Hope you have a good couple of days. Enjoy these ball games, and yeah, good job as always.
Thank you, sir. You as well. I loved your Eric Orze, Jerry Blevins part. That probably maybe my favorite part you ever had on the podcast.
Wow, that's saying something because I felt like that Bader Marte thing back in late April or early May, whenever it was pretty damn good too. But um, oh well.
I can't remember that. So
Well, I think I
no,
clipped
I
it. I
can.
think I clipped it. So everyone go check out the clips on our Facebook page or on the YouTube
Yeah,
page, and maybe they're on the
that's
Twitter
great.
page too. So make sure to follow us on all the social medias. Just search the Queen's Connection. We'll pop right up. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you listen on Spotify or on YouTube, do that there as well. So I think we're gonna wrap this up and enjoy these next 3 games against the Washington Nationals, and we will talk to you on Friday before actually to be the last series before the All-Star game. It will be a weekend series against the Colorado Rockies. So we will talk to you on Friday.